it goes.
It sounds like a Ben Stiller movie, like Along with Polly down there at St. Mark's.
It sounds like the 51st date, right? That movie.
Welcome to
Exactly. So good. But everybody likes it. People sing it all the time.
Hey man, I'm down.
Hope you stand tall.
That's what's important. All right, I think we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Monotalk. This is James with Monotalk, and I think, let me make sure I'm not on private. I was last time. I'm on public, so we're good to go. Okay, on Monotalk, we have people that come on here from all over the country, all over the world. They talk about politics. They talk about issues that are happening. We have some pretty interesting minds that come on here, some critical thinkers, true and real progressives, libertarians. We have Republicans that come on here. We have Democrats. Everybody basically come on my show because I am all about saving the planet and all of its inhabitants. Yes, it is a broad stroke, but if we can get the right people in office and support the right issues and agendas that support us, I think we definitely have a chance at turning things around because we are at the precipice. But besides that, we also have some people that come on our show, and I've had interviews with a few people out there. But I have a very special guest tonight, and his name is D Grumbine. Stephen, welcome. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you tonight?
Good. So it's just a pleasure to have you on with Monotalk. I'm growing not at a snail's pace. I've actually done Blog Talk Radio back in 2014 for a couple of years, doing the Democratic progressive junk, and then Bernie, threw us out under the table, in my opinion. And then I kind of went off the airways, a little traumatized, from those lifters of passing out all those flyers. Healed up a little bit, and I get back on. I started hooking with a guy named Eben Kidd who started Candlelight Media. We've got a few people out there that are spreading the word. We're kind of connected, like Susie Dawson, Elizabeth Leah Voss. I don't know if you've heard of those people. Jamal Thomas, progressive soapbox. Holly Seeliger, also Tim Black's been on this show. And a few other people, but it is a pleasure to have you on here, sir. Okay, so elephant in the room. Let's just start, all right? I know nothing still to this day, and you're going to probably, if we were like standing next to each other, you'd punch me in the shoulder or maybe in the chin. But could you please just kind of give me the basics of MMT, if you don't mind?
Sure. So
thanks.
Modern monetary theory is just a description of how the actual system works. It gets rid of all the lies and tales from the fire pit and all the stories we tell at the bar stool and so forth. And it just kind of slices through all the nonsense and gets straight to the meat of the matter. What MMT is not just for the United States. It's really describes currency wherever it's at. So MMT is pertinent in Australia. It's pertinent in Russia. It's pertinent in China. It describes currency wherever it's pertinent in where the euro is, but it describes the way the euro works. So when people say they don't agree with MMT, they're basically disagreeing with reality. It's kind of humorous in and of itself because people start from the position of you're wrong. But what it does is it predictably describes a fiat currency and how a fiat currency works versus how the gold buggers like to make it out to be. It actually breaks it down step by step. From money creation, how money actually comes to be, to the fact that a country cannot go broke on debt denominated in its own currency. And the fact
that continuously prints for itself.
Yeah, so we'll get to that. This is one of the more fun aspects of this. Remember, I came from the right. I didn't start out on the left. I came in as a hard right winger. I went through the Ron Paul era, so I got to see what the gold bug world was all about and all the Alex Jones myths and legends that I fight today because I know better now, and on and on and on. So really what you're dealing with is understanding that a nation that creates its own currency can't go broke in debt denominated in its own currency. It's common sense. It makes it's like, is that all this is? It's not all it is, but that's the big awakening right there. So if a country creates its own currency, then it probably doesn't need your tax dollar to spend it, right? So you ask yourself, well, why do we tax them? What's the deal here? And you have to understand the role between a currency user and a currency issuer. So, for example, in the United States, we have 50 states. These 50 states are all currency users. The federal government is the currency issuer. Regardless of any of the stories we talked about the Federal Reserve, federal government spoke the Federal Reserve into existence. It's its bitch. It's what it is. It does what it has to do. So in any event, the bottom line is that if Congress writes a bill, money is spent into existence. If Congress doesn't write a bill, money's not spent into existence, and then we're left to try and fill the economy up other ways. And the other ways typically end up being bank money. In other words, bank lend us money and we have to pay it back. So all of a sudden we're in private debt instead of the federal government in public debt. Well, let's talk about what the federal government's public debt is. The federal government chose, for whatever reason, to sell treasury bonds to cover its spending, right? So if you're going to deficit spend, you got to sell bonds and all stuff.
Go ahead.
The thing is that bonds are just an anachronism from the gold standard. We sell these things, and they're really to defend a positive interest rate at the Federal Reserve, nothing more, which in other words controls bank lending, okay? It's not controlling anything about our federal government's ability to spend or not spend. So since like the 1970s, Milton Friedman and the Chicago School made everyone scared to death of hyperinflation and oh my God, we're all going to die. So we got to cut spending. We can't have too much money floating out there. When the economy crashes, everybody go in private debt. When the economy goes boom, everybody pay off their debt, and that'll keep the world a happy place. Only problem is that since 1971, 72, when we went off the gold standard, the oligarchs and the powers that be understood how this worked. The plebes, us 99 percenters, we didn't know how it worked. So we were easily snowed by fear of debt and deficits as you watch the wealth gap go like this. Because as we spent money into existence, that money has a natural pooling effect, a helium effect that takes it up to the top 1% and higher, right? Yeah. If the money isn't spent on us at the bottom, we never see it because otherwise they're going to tell us it's going to trickle down on our head, right? Yeah. So what MMT
it's more like urine, actually.
What's that?
It's more like urine.
Yeah, exactly. It's that yellow stuff, right? Yeah. So really what we're talking about here is a situation where we realize that the United States government doesn't require an income. It's got an income because it creates its own income. It creates its own currency. So when we say we're going to borrow money from China, that's not how this works. China has US dollars that it keeps from doing business with the United States. And because we are a net importing nation, naturally China has a lot of US dollars from selling goods in the United States. So this money, what do they do with all this money that they've made selling goods and services in the United States? Do they cash it in and get Chinese yuan? Or do they go ahead and save it at the Fed and keep it as US dollars to facilitate more trade? Well, they naturally will oftentimes keep it at the Fed. And what they'll do is they'll buy treasury bonds. They'll buy these bonds. These bonds, I don't know, have you ever bought a bond before, Jim?
Long time ago.
So bonds are like 10-year bond, right? If you cash it out at 2 years, you're not getting your money back. You're only getting a small percentage, right? So when people talk about China dumping their bonds, and let's say they have long-term bonds, how foolish would China be to dump their bonds? I mean, they're not mature. They're not going to be able to get their full amount. Why would somebody do something like that? And more importantly, if someone does decide to cash out their bonds, the United States government will buy its own bonds back. We have people that buy these bonds. It's a joke. It's not real. It's a game. And these bond traders, most of the people you see object to MMT are the people that live and die on the bond sales. They love the bond market. They love speculating, right? And so MMT takes a lot of the speculation out because we prefer a zero interest rate policy. In other words, you don't have to sell bonds anymore. You don't have to deficit spend. You don't have to worry about covering the deficit spending with bond sales.
Right.
It literally is only there to offset a positive interest rate that the Fed sets. Now, so MMT, when we realize that number one, taxes literally do not fund spending, and number two, that the reason why there's so much bank money in the economy right now is because the federal government has stopped spending on the people. When you realize that, you say, well, shit, what can we do to fix this? And everybody wants to burn it down. They want to jump out a window. They want to, spit in the wind. They want to do a million things. None of them have any bearing on doing anything valuable. And so what we tell them is, listen, if we allow our federal government to spend on the people, provide a new deal, spend on full employment, spend on healthcare, spend on college, spend on green energy, you name it, that money is spent into the economy. And what
That's
happens?
what it's supposed to be for.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
And
we're supposed to stimulate this, but it's not going to us anymore.
But exactly. But it shouldn't even be stimulating us. What it should be doing, and see, you got to realize there's a circuit flow at play here, right? So the birth of a dollar, a real net financial asset that doesn't have to be paid off in some sort of a loan, right? When a dollar is spent into existence, it's spent into existence by Congress authorizing spending. So whenever you say, well, how are you going to pay for it? The answer is always Congress will authorize spending. That's it. It's that simple. Because every dollar Congress spends is a new dollar.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens? Congress spends money into the economy. Well, guess what happens when we tax it? It's deleted from the economy.
Right.
So this is a circuit. It's not like you just keep printing more money and just keeps going like this. What happens is that you tax back a certain portion of that money. Because if they tax back everything, if they got rid of all the debt, we'd have no money in the economy. Because the debt is literally to the penny the sum total of every single dollar that has been spent into the economy that hasn't been taxed since the dawn of time. So if we got rid of the debt, what would we do? We'd be in tough shape, wouldn't we?
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, point being is that now all of a sudden you start realizing, okay, so taxes aren't really there for revenue, they're there for other reasons. And MMT teaches us that we live in a tax-driven economy. In other words, back in the old days, way back, a king would say, I want to build a castle, I want to build roads, I want to build an aqueduct, whatever. Mm-hmm. He goes out amongst the town people and says, hey, I need people to go build this thing for me. And they look at him and they're like, I'm going to fish, right? I gotta find some way to coerce these bastards into building me roadways and aqueducts and castles and stuff and whatever.
So they raise the taxes.
So what they do is they submit a tax on your house, on your hut. They call it a hut tax, right? And that tax is only payable in the king's gold. In other words, that little seal with the king's face on it. It's not that the king needed it because the king had to spend it into existence before it could come back as a tax. But the king would spend it into existence and he would bring it back.
Right.
But by spending on the people that way, by making them have to use that currency to pay the tax on their house or lose it, they created a condition sufficient enough to always accept the king's currency. It didn't matter if it was a shell, a leaf, papyrus, whatever they used back in the day, sticks, it didn't matter. The bottom line was that he had issued a tax payable only in his currency. And that's what we have today. That's the essence of a fiat currency. And MMT describes that. So ultimately, it gives us the keys to the kingdom to really enact the progressive agenda.
Okay. So I'm going to try to do this in a nutshell. Ready? So currently what's happening is it seems that they're manufacturing a way for us to be beholden to them to take care of their needs, right? For what they want. And then MMT, I'm just thinking, now hold on, MMT eliminates that process to where it's directly going to where it needs to be.
Well, no, MMT is a description of how it works. What we do with it is up to us. So Republicans use MMT all the time by spending on the military. Democrats use MMT all the time spending on the military because we're afraid to go against patriotism. After all, we don't want to leave the country weak, right?
Oh.
They can spend out the wazoo using the military as the employer of last resort. They can spend out the wazoo building planes, trains, and automobiles for the military because that way they are getting jobs. That's how they make sure money is getting into the economy. But what if instead of spending all that money, let's just say we keep spending that money for just a second. I don't want to get into this trading off thing yet, but we can keep spending money on the military. I'm not saying we should. I'm saying we can.
Right.
We can not raise taxes on the rich. We can literally spend that money on the people now. And as long as we don't have full employment, as long as we are a net importing nation, as long as private debt bubbles exist like the student loan debt, right? We can spend, man, as long as there's real resources there to be consumed, as long as the demand can be met by production. It's only when demand can't be met by production that you start getting into an inflationary situation. So, for example, let's say we ran out of gasoline for whatever, right? This is the thing people, they want to talk about a petrodollar because this is what the bad blogs and bad videos at 3 a.m. say. But what it really comes down to is that gasoline is used, or petro products in general are used in everything from hair care products to greasing the gears at the dam, and you name it. I mean, everything uses some form of petrol, right?
Computers.
So what happens if there's a shortage? Well, the cost of everything is going to go up. The ability to get gasoline is going to make it go up. Everything is going to become more expensive. So this should be a good indicator that it's time to get on to green energy, to get away from fossil fuels for national defense purposes, if nothing else. Because whenever we're beholden to another nation or a commodity, whether it be gold, pegging our money to gold, or whether it be worrying about access to oil, we have allowed a foreign element to control our economy by its scarcity or its availability in general to meet our demand. So this is really what it comes down to is MMT allows us to use efficient use of real resources. And so perfect example, Medicare for all. Medicare for all, if we enacted that today, right? You have to ask yourself before you do that, do you have enough doctors? Do you have enough nurses? Do you have enough x-ray techs?
You got to pay them.
You got to pay them.
Yeah.
But do you have enough of them, though, even? Could you meet the demand of all the people that are currently not going to the doctor or going sparingly because they can't afford their affordable health care?
Yeah, people that can't do Omnicare.
Exactly. Are you literally, you have enough real resources to meet the demand? Because if you don't, there will be some shortages. There will be some delays. There will be some inflation there. Not necessarily inflation in terms of the cost, because what we're hearing is that Medicare will be so efficient compared to what we have today that it'll actually be deflationary, and that we should probably reduce taxes even for Medicare for all. How funny is that? To make the economy work. But instead, you'll hear people just say, no, we're going to raise tax. We got to pay for it, right? To pay for it to come out of nowhere.
People will be healthier. They'll be working more, longer hours. They'll be more productive. I mean, yeah, it's a better domino thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, the biggest thing about MMT, the MMT academics that I work with have championed with incredible tenacity the federal job guarantee. The federal job guarantee is like a three-pronged approach to saving the economy. Number one, it provides everybody that wants a job, period, as a right, okay? Because remember what I said about the dollar, right? About fiat currency in general. The kings issued this currency and put a tax on things to make you work for them. Well, how unfair is it for the country to issue a tax on people and they don't have a job to pay it? Now all of a sudden they're screwed and they got to do other things to come up with money, and that's how you end up with crime and all sorts of other bad things that occur in our economy.
Right.
you
the
look at
chaos of
this,
the circus that currently exists.
absolutely, every city that you go to where you see people that are impoverished and you see all kinds of crime and you see people that behave like feral dogs because they literally don't know from 1 minute to the next where their next meal is coming from. They don't know if they're going to get shot walking out the front door, and they're scared to death that they're going to get their ass beat by some local gang who's defending their turf, who's feeling the same exact thing too, right? So this entire really, really hair, it makes your hair stand on end kind of existence is a direct result of not spending enough money on the people. And if you spent that money, like, for example, a federal job guarantee, most of these people, think about it, a living wage with benefits and everything else immediately eliminates the lottery of birth. It immediately eliminates generational poverty. It also provides people that are in really bad situations, think about Flint, Michigan, to be able to pick up and leave and go anywhere in the country and be able to get a job like that as a guarantee.
So not one state has more accessibility to work, or not one state is more valuable to somebody with what they're. It's more inviting. So no one state is more inviting than another.
That's right. So think about this: federally funded, locally administered. In other words, your local community leaders sit around and say, "Well, what can we do here? What do we need done in our local community that we didn't have the money to do because we were, it was a choice. Do we raise taxes and make everybody leave our area, or do we just suffer and deal with crappy roads and crappy, everything here?
40 kids in a classroom, the whole nine yards.
Yes, all these things can be satisfied, right? And so what MMT does is it allows us to see the possibilities as opposed to the dismal, the fear porn that so many like Alex Jones push out there to us. It allows us to cut through that and say, oh my God, there really is an opportunity here to save lives and save the planet and to make everybody's lives a little bit better. I mean, imagine this. I got laid off in 2009 from a 17-year career at Verizon. I couldn't find any work at all. I mean, the economy had dried up. It was belly up.
I was there.
If this federal job guarantee would have been there, right? I mean, let's say it's $15 an hour plus benefits. My life would be dramatically different than it is today. And I mean, sincerely, I have a bunch of degrees and I'm paying, I think it's $127,000 I owe for my student loans. I had to take out additional monies to try to keep afloat while I was going to school. I mean, it was just really a bad deal, man.
Yeah,
all the way around.
Your story is very similar to millions, actually.
So, when I hear people complain about MMT, I'm like, well, what is it you're complaining about? You don't want me to talk about hope? MMT equals hope. I mean, that's why I see it. And, thank God we've got good academics that can speak policy to these leaders that maybe we gave up on before, but are now listening to them, right? I am as agnostic when it comes to political parties as you can get. I support, a coalition that's outside the duopoly, but I also support people that are trying to do good works inside the party when I know them and I see them and I know what they're doing. But they have to understand economics for me to be able to even get close to supporting them. Because for the last, 40
Well, I'm working
years,
on it.
the last 40 years, we have witnessed time and time again the idea that we're going to do these great things only to hear we're too broke. We got to eat our peas, like Obama said.
Right.
We got to tighten our belts. We got to make tough choices, like Clinton said. All these other, and you look at Bill Clinton, who reduced the deficit to the point where we ended up with a surplus, which, think about this, right? This is something called sectoral balances. You have private sector, you have public sector, and then you have rest of world.
Okay.
When he reduced the deficit, he basically reduced our income, and it pushed everybody, all the businesses, you name it, to private credit. Then all of a sudden that bubble burst. And when that bubble burst that was created by neoliberal Bill Clinton, that right there created the next 3 recessions. We still suffer.
Glass-Steagall did kind of help that bubble, right?
Well, yes and no. Glass
The
Steagall
removal of
has already
Glass
been
Steagall.
gutted so much. There's a great article out there on this. It's a place called Progressive Historians, and it tells the entire story of Bill Clinton and Glass Steagall, and it tells about Bill Clinton and the housing crisis.
Right.
It really is phenomenal, and it showed how Bill Clinton was really excited to be able to hand the pen he signed away Glass Steagall to this guy, a Wall Street mogul named Sandy Wheel. And when he did that, it's like, you son of a bitch. This is Progressive Historians. This isn't like some right-wing hack job here. This is people that would have normally supported Clintons, the Democrats, because they're the good guys right back in the day anyway.
The good guys.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we've all been taught for so long. We just associated good versus evil. And now we realize that they've been doing worse. They're the party of fiscal responsibility, as they say, which is a joke. Because what they're doing is they're putting an artificial constraint on our ability to achieve prosperity for every American citizen. And I'm not talking about 90-inch plasmas or 4G, whatever. I'm talking about fear, all this stuff, right? Anyway,
like George Carlin says, everybody's got their stuff, and everybody wants more stuff, and everybody needs more stuff. Go ahead, sorry. Is the internet connection okay?
Anyway, so flash forward here. You want to end wars to enact green energy. Right. You want to enact, healthcare, etc. Best thing to do is understand modern monetary theory, so you're not sitting there fighting with Republicans about taxes. You're fighting about actually providing services. It's important that we disabuse people of the concerns about the debt. It's important to disabuse them of concerns about deficits. It's important to teach them the role of taxation, because otherwise they'll fall into the same traps that they've always fallen into for the last 40 years, and we'll get nothing once again. MMT is like the red pill, blue pill kind of moment. It's like, oh shit, so you mean we just spend money out of nowhere? Yes, yeah. That's exactly what we do.
On the right resources.
MMT allows us to understand that we have the wherewithal.
Yeah, on the right things, on the things that matter.
That's right.
Have you heard of the Green New Deal by the Green Party?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that would be like hand in hand. It would be perfect. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that. I went to New Jersey to the Green Party annual meeting. And at the Green Party annual meeting, we presented MMT to them. And it was about paying for a Green New Deal, enabling a Green New Deal. Mm-hmm. Well, unfortunately, the Green Party has decided that it is going to embrace this ridiculous thing called American Monetary Institute, AMI, positive money. And what that does is it ends the fractional reserve system. Well, there is no fractional reserve system. It hasn't been around since 1934, but they're eager to end it in 2018. Mm-hmm. It makes no sense. Another blemish on them. And it's frustrating because I really like them. In fact, the Pennsylvania Green Party had actually asked me to run against Bob Casey. I had to turn it down because my job wouldn't allow for it. Right. But I'm very, very sympathetic to the Green Party. And there's a good movement of people in the Green Party that get this and that are starting to try to rewrite the Green Party national, the overall platform that the old timers threw in there to wreck, and in my opinion, really wreck the party. Because they can't pay for a Green New Deal with all the things they want to do, greening the dollar, this and doing that, and this and then that. They've got a million barriers before they save the first flight. And that's the problem. And we brought that to their attention. I mean, I brought expert upon expert upon expert to talk to them at the highest levels. Mm-hmm. And they still said, thanks, but no thanks. We're going to stick with AMI. We're going to green the dollar. The young Greens get it. The young Greens like Rodolfo Cortez,
yes,
Mejia. We've got other folks that are really getting this. And the Nebraska Green Party, praise God for Shane Fry and Casey Callahan and others. They really, really went the extra mile. Got Drs. Fidel Kaboub and Joe Firestone, both worked with us at Real Progressives. And they helped rewrite the Green Party Section M platform to get rid of the debt fear porn that the Green Party peddles and all the nonsense about balanced budgets and doing crazy shit. All this nonsense was in there in their Section M. And hopefully there's enough energy there to get rid of it, because David Cobb, he loves it, man. He's all about AMI. He's all about that kooky stuff, and it's a shame because I like the guy.
It seems like it's old practices that has proven not to actually work.
Yep, exactly.
Right? So why would you keep going in a direction that's not actually working? Which brings me to something new that's just starting out in Hawaii, which they're starting out UBI. Now, MMT, you wouldn't need UBI because you'd be fine, right? Why would you need UBI if you had MMT?
So let's talk about a UBI, because, I mean, you don't want to be a jerk about it, because, people are looking at it and say, wow, this is such a great idea. You want to pat them on the back for thinking bigger than they did before, right? The problem with the UBI is this. When we were fighting, I'm sure we were fighting probably against school vouchers and privatizing the schools and all this other stuff, right?
Yes.
Well, UBI is basically a school voucher. You give it to the rich, you give it to the poor, you give it to everybody. But there's nothing to prevent the cost of those schools from going up. You got your $5,000, you better hope it covers it. You got your $5,000, you better not need anything else. Well, in this case, when it comes to UBI for states, and when it comes to UBI for the country, right? The problem is that the libertarian strain of the right wing in this country wants to eliminate the social safety nets of this country. They have been targeting a UBI since Milton Friedman with the negative income tax. And this is a goal they have, to eliminate all social programs. Here's your $1,000, now get out of my face. Get out of my face. And that's the deal. And so a UBI, while on one hand sounds grand, you got to realize Martin Luther King Jr. came out and said, we should have a job for everyone and we should have a basic income.
And he still
so a lot of people heard one or the other.
Right.
They didn't hear both.
Right.
The problem is that if you give people a UBI, there's no wage anchor. There's no fight against the capitalists. All this is more money to spend on capitalism, right? That's all it ends up being, is more money. There's no basic needs covered. It's not like you get shelter with it. You don't get clothing with it. You get this amount of money, and you better hope to God that everything you need can be covered in that small amount of money. It's ridiculous, is what it is. But a federal job guarantee, let's talk about the difference between the two, right? A federal job guarantee not only sets the bar that every employer has to pay to hire you out of the job guarantee. To meet or beat this, you've got to hit my target wage, whatever. I know there's some lowball ones and then there's some higher ones. I support somewhere between $15 and $20 an hour as that base, because it comes with all the benefits too, right? When I think about it, I'm thinking about a New Deal 2.0, a second Bill of Rights, FDR style kind of program. Big, huge, wow, man, wow, holy shit, who thought of this kind of thing, right? Big thinking. And when you think about the federal job guarantee, not only does it set the economy to the labor standard, it now pegs the economy to labor. You can literally walk away from a bad job now and know you will have a job waiting for you. They can't screw with you anymore. You have by default clipped the wings of the capitalists. You've clipped the wings of bad predatory businesses, because you at least can go back and make.
You're not expendable anymore.
That's right. Yeah. Now they've got a huge.
That's a huge
hook
right there.
Absolutely. Yeah. They've got to fight to get you over there to work for them. Now, mind you, this is not like a high-end wage we're talking, and it shouldn't be. It really should not be like the Taj Mahal wage. It should be setting the baseline, right? Now, if a bunch of people lay people off and they all roll onto this buffer stock of employment, which is the job guarantee, people will be doing that and they'll serve their local communities, they'll do whatever. But when the economy picks back up, most of these people will opt to take higher paying jobs in the private sector. They'll come off of the job guarantee. So this is a buffer stock. It's not considered it's not something that you would You could, I guess. But it's not something you would probably want to be on forever unless you just want to do what you're doing. It's up to you. It's a voluntary program. It's not a make work deal. I mean, it's care work. It's serving your community. That's what I love about it. Like if you're gonna, it's not soul sucking. You're serving your neighbors. You're helping with care work. There's different ones out there that talk about caring for an elderly relative or caring for children even. I mean, we're talking about compensating work that has previously not been seen as profitable for the man, but it's profitable for social capital, right?
Taking care of each other in the village.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So to me, the way I look at this is a UBI is status quo. You've got nothing to peg the rent. You've got nothing to peg wages. You've got nothing to peg anything to. It's just here's this money, get out of my face.
That's what I thought of it when it first came out.
Yeah. So it's in my opinion, for those people that are sympathetic to a UBI, I'm all for. I don't know if you remember Bernie Sanders when he was in his the primary came out and said we need to expand Social Security. We need to expand.
Good impression. That's pretty good.
Why not use Social Security, expand it, and allow people that maybe don't want to work, maybe can't work, whatever, allow them to receive Social Security. Okay.
Some kind of debilitation, it could be mental, physical.
40,000.
But UBI itself isn't going to help. Isn't going to take care of all that.
Not at all. No. 40,000 people a year commit suicide for joblessness, not just because of finances, but because they feel worthless. They want to do something. They really do. And the good news is about things within the job guarantee are care work. You know what I mean? So it's fulfilling work. Even though it's not high paid work, it's fulfilling work. So I think, there's a lot here. I know Keneally Ng supports a UBI, but he's also an MMTer. And that's, so you can see a job guarantee with a basic income, not a UBI. UBI stands for Universal Basic Income. So everybody gets it, right? But in my opinion, and not just my opinion, but the opinion of many, the UBI or the BI, if you will, and the job guarantee are compatible together in the sense of allowing those people that can't work, won't work, whatever, to be able to have a subsistence living, at least, whatever. But the job guarantee, why in the world would you prevent people from working? People keep coming back, what about automation? Well, automation isn't taking care of Granny. Automation isn't doing it. Just stop. They keep thinking about Eugene V. Debs and the Industrial Revolution. And I'm saying, what about care work? What about you have kids, right?
Yeah.
So think about this,
Somewhere
right? My kids go to music class once, on the third Tuesday of every month, something like that. When I was a kid, we went every day to music class. We went and took gym, PE.
For the arts.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Which is dying in every school that I've ever heard or know of.
It's because of funding.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to take you down another path here, just so you see how important this is.
Okay.
The reason we were delayed tonight was because my son, who has autism, had a meltdown. He couldn't get himself calm, so he couldn't go to bed, right? But he only gets 1 day a week of therapy from the early intervention people. They come in, they work with him for speech, they work with him for sensory, they work with him for play, they work with him for eating because he can't eat either, not like normal kids can eat. But 1 day a week is not enough. He needs every day, 8 full hours a day. I mean, it would be great if people in the local community could get trained on this, and every kid with autism could be treated round the clock with people really pitching in and helping these kids assimilate and integrate and be a part of society.
Right.
And unfortunately, they would rather just go ahead, throw you the 1 day a week, and then tell you, your kid's just, whatever. He's just never going to be anything more than what he is, and that's just a goddamn shame.
I'm sure it's painful. I'm sure
It's awful. And the more I talk to individuals in the community, the more that I talk to the professionals that serve my son, the more I realize that the primary problem they have is 1,000% funding. And when you think about it, funding, the states, remember I said currency issuers and currency users?
Right, yes.
The states have to tax in order to be able to afford state-based programs. The federal government does not. So the federal government is sitting there cutting pinching pennies, being smart, eating our peas, reducing deficits, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And the states are drying up because the only way they can make money is on taxes. And if the feds are taxing more than they're spending into the economy starts compressing. You start seeing people get laid off again. You start seeing pensions go defunct. You start seeing Puerto Rico. We could be bailing Puerto Rico out yesterday, no problem at all. But we're dead. Let them suffer a little bit because that's what we're good at. We're good at austerity. So anyway, I'm sorry. I just
no. This is good stuff. So with that being said and known, in regards to where we're at now, we're talking about what happened in 2008. I was working for an auto lending institution, and we were lending out $120 million to whoever we could. Just throwing money out there, right? Moody's and everybody were just approving everything at the time. Put anybody in any kind of loan you can, and that blew up. We're kind of getting to that place again.
Yeah.
Are you feeling a bubble right now? Because a lot of people are saying
student debt bubble. It's the student debt bubble that's going to kick our ass. $1.4 trillion in student debt right now, hanging over every young person's neck. And you and I, in our late 40s, early 50s, we went back to school after we got laid off in the great financial crisis so we could get another career. Now we got that debt to pay for.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not us, but huge amounts of people in our generation had to go back to school to try and find another job after they got laid off. Now that debt is hanging on them like a noose as well. And Stephanie Kelton and Pavlina Trineva and Marshall Auerbach and others.
I've seen Stephanie's videos, yes.
Study on how eliminating the student debt would just make our economy sing again. Because so much of my student loan payments are almost $700 a month. $700 a month.
Jesus.
Yes. And it's all unnecessary. It can be wiped out like that. So when people push back against MMT, you hear what I'm saying? They're literally cock blocking and saving lives. And that's why I sit there and I say, I played a video. And
that girl that's your friend really isn't your friend. That you think's trying to keep you from.
Right, exactly. I showed a video a little while back. It was a homeless group of guys, 3 of them, in a loading dock in Alabama on the coldest night of the year. And the one guy was dying. He was literally just starting to fall down and die. The other homeless guy held him up, rifled through his pockets, just because he had to survive too.
Right.
And as he got the stuff out, the guy fell to the ground and died. That right there is 100,000,000% what happens when we reduce deficits, when we cut spending. These people have we could have homes for every one of the homeless. We could do 3D printing and build homeless shelters all over the place.
Right.
Just so much. But yet people will literally sit there and say, what about inflation? These are the nonsense that comes back. And it's like, what about inflation? I mean, first of all, it's not coming. Japan has 250% debt to GDP ratio right now. 250%. And they can't crack 2% inflation. They have no empire to defend. They have no petro yen. They have no nothing. They have 250% debt to GDP ratio. And they have a very equal society. They have people that are living good lives. And they have really, quite frankly, what I consider to be a very cutting-edge society on many levels. But the United States, we can't get out of our own way.
Is it
And
the
so-
capitalism? Is it the process of capitalism? But, okay, I know you're saying that, but what if we were to you implement MMT, right? And at the same time, you start.
MMT is. It's like I am the I am. MMT is a description of how it really is. The thing is, you're saying, what if we used it for progressive purposes?
Oh, God.
Not
Ding, sorry.
neocon purposes
Okay,
with
ding,
the war.
there it is. Sorry. There
That's
that
okay.
it just hit me. Bing, sledgehammer. Okay, so if we're doing the right things, then we can also regulate, put some accountability and a little more tighten the screws on capitalism.
Well, absolutely. So think about this, right? If you start taking care of the needs of the people, right? And medical care is now covered as a right. Education is now covered as a right. You don't have to worry about these basic things, right? Now all of a sudden capitalism is based on wants. Your needs are no longer subject to capitalism. So this is democratic socialism at its finest, right? You can change the workplace. You can make it more democratized. You can bring about co-ops. You can do different things that you may or may not want to do. That doesn't change the fact that it's really not capitalism. What it is neoliberalism. And what neoliberalism does is it goes around. The United States is famous for exporting. What neoliberalism does is privatizes. It convinces you that the government can't do it, so we've got to privatize it. Once we privatize it, now capitalism really can screw you, because what happens is now we've got to worry about profit. Now we've got to worry about reducing costs. The federal government doesn't have to reduce costs, but yet we do. Wonder why that is, right? But these capitalist groups do have to, because they have a job of returning shareholder value and blah, blah, blah. They got to stay afloat. They need money for advertising, whatever it is that they do in their capitalist world.
Right.
But for the people, if you want a fair and just society, start letting the federal government do its job. And here's something else. You may have heard this before. Californians really like the idea of California having its own Medicare for all, right?
We tried.
Now, let me ask you a question. Is California a currency issuer or a currency user?
We're a user.
Currency user, that's right. So, what happens? The state of California is one of the very few states that has an economy so large that it can absorb things, right? What happens if Delaware tries to follow suit? What happens if Wisconsin tries to follow suit? Or North Dakota tries to?
For them.
They're going under. And so what happens is this. Now all of a sudden the right wing sits back and they go, told you it wasn't going to work.
Right.
You stupid bleeding heart liberals, told you it wasn't going to work. And now all of a sudden what you've got is now none of us get it, because these states decided to go rogue, try and do it their own way.
Right.
And the reality is there's only one that can do it without worry, and that's the federal government. In fact, one of the most important things we could do to fix this nation, in my opinion, is to eliminate and make illegal any federal mandates that are not funded. No more unfunded mandates to the states, because the states have to tax to pay for those mandates from the feds.
Right.
If the feds want you to do it, then they should provide block grants or pay specifically for those things.
You got to cover their debt. Cover.
Period.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. Security.
In my opinion only, we should have the federal government take over the pensions of every one of these state agencies, every single one of them, and stop the states from having to pay for it, and let the federal government take care of it. That way it's guaranteed, it's sure, and it won't go broke, and people will get what they deserve. End of story.
Here's the big question with that, though.
Sure.
Having the right people in place for the proper oversight on it, like I'm saying with other things, the right accountability, and so that everything's distributed properly. Who else out there? It's great to hear that some Greens. Rodolfo Cortez was on here. We had a Q&A and get to know Rodolfo. But are there a lot of Dems out there, or maybe a few Republicans, or
There's a bunch of people starting to come up. There's a guy named Justin Santapietro who's running in Virginia. He's running as a Democrat. It's a very red district. He knows this stuff inside and out. You got Tim Canova, and Tim is not exactly an MMTer, but he's very, very MMT friendly. So Tim Canova is a guy that you can guarantee would handle this properly. You've got a ton of guys running right now. My favorite guy, Johnny Oxon, has really, really learned MMT here recently and is on fire for it. Once the light bulb hit, man, he's just out of
my light bulb just went off. Ding! It's because I thought it's an external. Anyway, it's so stupid. That was one of my Joey moments. I have a lot of Joey moments.
Well, you've got Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in New York, who is now learning about the federal job guarantee and MMT as well. So you've got a bunch of really, really good candidates starting to come up that are learning this stuff. And, we have tons of candidates come through Real Progressives. And Joe Firestone, who has written countless books and blogs on MMT, gives them the once over with MMT. He's even, it's frustrating because I don't like this because unfortunately, while it's certainly within the realm of MMT, it's also gimmicky to me. Okay, and he has something called OCF, which is overt congressional financing. And what it does is it allows you to quote unquote pay off the debt without cutting spending. And so for the people that can't quite get their head wrapped around what the debt is and all this other stuff, it's just very, very transparent, making the Fed put money into the Treasury's account to pay for programs so that we're not selling bonds, we're not doing this thing. It's easy peasy lemon squeezy. But this is the stuff that for the people that reject, they can't quite they fail. They can't get the idea that, hey, man, money had to start from somewhere, and it started with the patent the United States government has to create the U.S. dollar. And so bottom line is who cares, right? Well, Joe came up with OCF. It's perfectly legit. It's there for the people that refuse to learn this. And
that makes sense. So I hear a lot about the Fed.
Yes.
It's a private corporation. Would we even need the Fed? Do we even need it anymore? Can we just
let's talk about the
Fed?
We just
can we finally turn it into a government facility?
So let's talk about that, right? Are you in IT at all?
In IT?
In information technology. Do you do IT?
No.
Okay. So on a router, we have an ingress and we have an egress, okay? When we have a DMARC outside of the house where the phone comes in, you have the public side, there's a network interface device, and then there's the inside, right?
Yeah,
the inside wiring, JKY or whatever. In the banking system, we have a public-private demarcation with the Federal Reserve. All the Fed does, the only thing the Fed does, is clear payments, okay? They keystroke deposits when the Congress asks them to, okay? They don't create money. They don't print money. The only people that can print money is the Bureau of Engraving and the Treasury. They're the only ones that can actually print money. But the Fed keystrokes dollars, deposits into the Treasury's accounts. And they balance the interest rates by moving debt swaps around with these different debt instruments that are out there on the market.
Right.
They don't actually do anything it's the most boring job of them all. It's a spreadsheet. They manage a giant spreadsheet. And people get all freaked and geeked about it. And it's literally a ginormous nothing burger. And by the time you fight through that process, how many people had to die waiting for these other things to occur while people are ending the Fed? It's a nothing burger. They got it convinced that the Fed just prints money and they do these, and none of it's true. That's the thing. It's like the most boring yawn fest of them all. So the Treasury and the Fed have a consolidated balance sheet. Okay, the Fed is a creature of Congress, is what I like to call it. They always say the creature from Jekyll Isle. It's a creature of Congress. Congress spoke the Fed into existence. Now, if it's a private corporation, it's private in a way that no other private corporation ever operated, because every one of these local banks, these regional Fed chapters, if you will, they have a 6% stock. You hear people talk about, right? And really, all that is saying, yeah, we're a part of the system. That's nothing more than that. Okay. And when it comes down to the quote unquote private thing, government checks don't bounce. So it's not like they're private that way. They do what Congress tells them to do. Okay. So it's really much ado about nothing. That's why I get so crazed when I hear people talking about the Rothschilds, the private banks, this, and that, and the other. It's like Congress is your demon lord. Congress is what you need to be focused on, because Congress can control the Fed. Congress has changed the Fed's charter so many times over the course of history, you wouldn't even believe it. All anyone ever focuses on
is
is
have full and total control of the Fed.
Yes.
Would you say, like, if you're looking at Bitcoin, would the Fed be kind of like a Bitcoin ledger?
No.
It's almost kind of a way of looking at it.
Not quite, because the Fed doesn't want to know where money is. They don't care. They just are a router. They just make things go this way.
Router. That's a good word.
Right.
Yeah.
But with Bitcoin, it's good that you asked about Bitcoin, because a lot of people think that Bitcoin's going to bring the whole world down. Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is like an envelope that you put dollars in. Okay, you seal it up, you send it on its way. The other people see it. There's no name on it. There's nothing. Hey, it's like, shit, man, it's anonymous. Take the money out. Thank you very much. They send the envelope back. And that's it. That's all it is. It's a payment system. It's not in any way, shape, or form a currency. It's a commodity. And so, when you say, I'd like to buy $500 US worth of Bitcoin, you don't say, hey, I want to buy 500 Bitcoin worth of gas. It's not going to happen. That's not what it is. And here's the best thing. Remember how I told you about paying taxes?
Right.
Can you pay your taxes in Bitcoin? No. You know why you can't? Because taxes are deleted to keep the money supply and that's how they manage the amount of money in the system, if you will. And they can't even perfectly manage it. They're just targeting. They have no idea how much tax receipts they're going to get in a given year. So they have a target they shoot for. Bitcoin can't extinguish a tax liability because the US dollar is a tax credit. So it's spent out, waiting to be returned and killed, put to rest.
It's a virtual currency from everybody saying. There's a comment, if I can just get a couple comments in from the galley, the live chat. This is from Zoxbox, he's here a lot. It's why they print trillion from nothing. Congress funds spending for the oligarchy through the Fed. You want me to repeat that? Congress funds spending for the oligarchy through the Fed.
Congress is the originator of all spending. So whoever controls Congress is the one that can control the purse strings of the nation, right? So if we, the people, join forces and make demands as opposed to fighting each other and talking about hyperinflation and nonsense, chasing rabbits down holes. If we can stay focused, we can make demands. Because think about this: Richard Nixon passed the EPA. Now I'm not sure if you think
that's crazy.
He's not an environmentalist. He was not an environmentalist.
But there's the trick there.
Yeah, signing the EPA into existence. So people can bond together and make shit happen. The question comes down to is are you just going to point and say, yep, the bad guys are winning, nothing we can do about it, let's burn it down. If you can burn it down, you'd have done it already. You can't. That's the problem. It's kind of like, man, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to rock this baby to sleep, and maybe after, you burp him, I'll put him to bed. And that's kind of the story tales we tell each other to try and keep us feeling like we're edgy and in the fight. The minute we took up arms, there's Apache helicopters covering.
That's crazy. Sure.
I mean, honest to God, it's a terrifying thought. But at the same time, though, it's our own ineptness. This is why I put it on us, right? Because if we unite, if me and you...
Everybody's Joey moment.
Yeah. If we talk about to our friends and they tell two friends and so on, and we say, guys, April 15th tax day, Let's be at the mall. Let's take it by storm. Let's go to the Supreme Court. Let's go to Congress. Let's occupy their offices. Let's block traffic. Let's do whatever. Tell them, damn it, we aren't moving until you enact the job guarantee, get rid of student debt, and freaking give us health care. They ain't moving, ain't budging until you give us green energy. Not budging. You won't get anything done if you don't freaking address our concerns. And to me, that right there is the winner chicken dinner. But instead, we want to listen to Alex Jones and tell stories about shit.
Lizard people and stuff like that.
So,
well, I want to say this has been fantastic. I'm not going to keep you here any longer.
Okay.
Guys, I'm super sorry, but I have to get going. I was going to open up the floor. You had some stuff going on. You had a war zone at your house, things you needed to take care of. We all have things we have to do. I actually have to go to a Green Party media committee meeting. And I want to say that I do know that there are some Greens out there that really understand what you're trying to do. And we could really make a bigger difference and get things better well taken care of if we can go in the direction that you're talking about, for sure.
Yeah.
And I believe